Welcome to Friday night's video and our second master series. I do believe this is the 41st video in our second master series, and the second video dealing with phase meters, stereo field meters, and correlation meters. I wanted to point something out really quick, that when we were talking about if I put this stereo track on, and we talked about how this changing footprint develops over time, and we were talking about every moment in time is really important for you to become that next level master audio engineer. I kind of wanted to point something out, because a lot of times that until you really get good at understanding this footprint and when it's a problem and when it isn't, as you develop yourself as an engineer, this is a very simple tool that can really help you spot issues that we'll talk about in the coming videos. And we already have a little bit in the last video to get you start seeing the importance of it, get it out, and start putting up flags and start looking into it. Now, the next thing is if I take this and move this out of the way, this is a plugin called Pentagram. Now, this plugin is looking at this stereo field in different ways and showing you where it's at as far as right or left. Now, this track is looking more like this on this Gonio meter, but over here it's looking like this. This is not, it's only a $40 plugin, but it's kind of cool. There is a couple other ones. That Blue Cat here makes one that is a stereo field meter that will show different ones overlapping on top of each other, like when we looked at the spectrogram on the equalization in that short segment, kind of like that with multiple tracks on it, which can be great, but it's pretty detailed work, and until you get to a point that you really, it's trust me on that, every moment in time is a little bit difficult to see with that, but it is both those plugins I do recommend looking into. Now, to give you a little bit more detailed information what that is, that this track right here, if you look at this track, it's just short right here, and it's these vocals. Now, if I take, there is a program called Sonic Lineup. Now, this program is basically takes all that stereo field information and puts it out to where it's right and left, where it's reading levels. The brighter it is, the louder it is, the quieter it is, the lighter the color is. And like right here, this is a tuh, duh, or a s, or something like that just kind of confuses the program. This is kind of experimental. It's showing the azimuth of what's going on. But to give you an example, as that phase meter was doing all that changing that you've seen, bouncing around all over the place, and you're going, well, what is that, bro? Well, what that is, this is going over here to the left, and up at the top, it's going to the right. This is like sss and tuzz and things like that. Different things that are happening besides placement and what's going on with the stereo field is other type of vocal pronunciations and things vocals do that cause confusion with the stereo field. I know it sounds funny, but it's true. So basically, if I just kind of scroll through this, so you can see that vocal instead of looking at the Gonio meter like we're looking at it in the last video of seeing how it's changed all the time, you look at it on here and look at all these different levels off to different sides that are at different levels, and different kinds of pronunciations, tuzz, does, fuzz, all kinds of different things. Even the way that you vocalize something can confuse the stereo field to where it starts interpreting it as something else that comes out sounding like something else, which may or may not be a problem. But you're looking at this never-ending footprint that's changing all the time, going, well, what is that? Well, this is basically kind of what it's showing. This is kind of experimental, and you can get this program for free. It's called Sonic Lineup. It's a new addition to the Sonic Visualizer line, and this is what it's trying to show you is happening. So all these different levels off to either side at different loudnesses, and how it's interpreting different types of pronunciations and articulations of the vocal tract when you're doing different pronunciations. Even when I'm talking along here, where when I'm singing it, I just want to go and I see it, I want to be, yep, you know, whatever's all going on there, it's interpreting it differently, and my head's moving around and and depending on how that the stereo track was captured or how it was created, is, I mean, going to be a lot of different things happening there. But this is the information that you're looking at. So that when you're seeing it bouncing all over the place, that this is what it's trying to interpret on the Gonio meter and the correlation meter, which is by no means giving you this kind of detailed information. Look, all of a sudden it went way left here for some, or way left for some dang reason. I mean, it just dropped out to the bottom. It's gone, and it just dropped way right. So you can understand a Gonio meter was interpreting that as whoop, off just for a second there. You know, it's off to the, you know, going to the left, or the right, or flatlining. You know, just for a second for some dang reason. You know, for how they recorded it, or something happened to the file, or something, right? So this is all that stuff that you're looking at. So this is a really good program to try to help you understand it. It is experimental, but now you get a little bit better understanding of when you're looking at that footprint, that it's trying to show you this kind of stuff happening, which is pretty detailed. It's like looking at RX6, you know, harmonic overtones, even on a vocal tract. Does that make sense? It's complex. It's real complex. And this, we're trying to deal with the stereo field and the stereo azimuth. It's, you know, it's pretty complicated. So, you know, when that is a problem and when that isn't is very questionable, and can be very, you know, interpretable as in how you see it rather than somebody else sees it. That's a problem, might not be your opinion, and it might be just fine. Whereas somebody else, it's like, oh no, you know, and it's like, so you got, I mean, you understand. So we've been through that, and look at it's going to all center here and off to the left. You know, and then it's changing. You're getting blurriness here going on here. Here, there's a long s or a th or something going on that it's trying to interpret it. And it's as it rises up here. I mean, they're doing a little rise or something, and you can tell that it's interpreting it in some very strange way. That's really going to take some analysis on your part to understand, what does that mean? What's going on there? Is that okay, or do I need to do some adjustment? Do I need to cut that piece of audio and make some adjustment, you know, with some kind of plug-in that can let me delay on right or left to straighten that out some, or try to widen that, or mono it for a second, or whatever you might want to do if it sounds funky, bro. Does that make sense? Which is, you know, your interpretation of whether it does or not. It's like, you know, some people don't think Marilyn Manson looks funky. Some people do. Just like Marilyn Manson might think a cowboy looks really funky, where the cowboy does not. So, you know, it's kind of that kind of deal. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, as you go along here, this is what we're looking at. So, you know, a kind of a variation of that is this plug-in here. This plug-in here can kind of show you that kind of stuff. And if I switch to tracks and I say, okay, look at this vocal here, you know, all I'm getting here is just mono. Does that make sense? And, you know, as I take and put another one on there and I turn that one on, now I got two tracks, right? And one of them, well, for some reason it's going off to the left. And what you're hearing is just that right there. And you can see them going together there for a minute, and it's showing you, depending on how mono or stereo those tracks are. So this is kind of an experimental thing. So this is a pretty cool one here to use with your Gonio meter to see for issues, because sometimes it's kind of hard to pull out something like, you know, sonic lineup, you know, and really get into it, you know, what is going on there. But you can have it open in another window and drag the track into your browser and then drop it in there in a heartbeat, no problem at all. But a plug-in in real time is kind of nice and handy. And this Blue Cat Stereo is a pretty nice one doing the stereoscope, although I'm a little leery about it because of it's just one quick moment in time. When we talked about how fast that footprint can change, that This can show you when there's issues and can show you when you have major issues, or you get a nice full stereo field or something that's maybe not so quite so full in stereo and you're okay with that, or things like that. This is going to give you a lot more detailed information, but in a different way, and you have to make a decision on something. Either one of these is something I recommend myself, something like this, and get really used to using it with your Gonio meter. For now, this is experimental in my opinion. In my opinion, it really is. When the plug-in industry starts coming out with something like this, that it's showing this stereo azimuth in a plug-in like this in real time, that's doing a really good job, buy it, because this is some really good information to really, it's giving you footprints to look at that are much more detailed footprints like we need when we're talking about, when we're looking at using the scope. Those kind of footprints are really going to show themselves well, not just a good stereo field or something like that. This is going to show you because it can change a lot over time, and it's giving you a lot better information than like a Gonio meter. That can be debatable, so I'm not going to say that. I already did, so but to me, this is much more interpretable, because I can really see when stuff is starting to get out of whack and where it's going. Instead of seeing some funky footprint like we looked at on the Gonio meter will interpret it as some figure 8 thing, that looks like some kind of star or snowflake thing, for just a second, where this is going to give much better information. So this video I basically put together just to kind of show you that. So when we get into it and we look at what the Gonio meter and the correlation meter is showing us when we're dealing with phase or stereo field work, kind of what we're looking at. And as you go through that, keep this in mind, that this is the kind of stuff we're interpreting. But when we're dealing with music, that this looks really complicated, but not that big a deal. This is a nice full stereo vocal, which all the instruments may not be set up that way. And so, it's not really, may not become that important when you've got a pretty good stereo field, but it may be off just a little bit here and there. It's musical. I mean, if you take everything out that you might think is imperfect in music, it may start sounding not musical. But then again, I've seen some people that they don't take nothing out and they're like, it's all natural, bro. And it's like a really strange hippie dude covered in mud, dude. It's not coming out as a really good Whitney Houston song, dude. It's not. You know what I'm saying? So with all due respect, there's a time and place for just about any way that you decide to do it, and so I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, because on either way, I've heard some cool stuff come out from both sides. So, I mean, most people lean more towards doing a really good job, and sometimes lean a little bit more the other way a little bit, just to kind of keep a nice natural feel without making things sound unmusical. So this topic can really have an impact on that. So I don't want you to go nuts with it, like, you need to sit around and get out your NASA scope and call somebody at NASA to figure out what's going on here because your vocals suck. I mean, just, I don't want you to go that deep, okay? If you're trying to build a rocket ship and you can't miss Mars by 1 centimeter, otherwise you're all going to die, then, you might want to, get a little more detailed work going. Otherwise, it's music, bro. So anyway, I just wanted to make this video to point this out, so that as we're going along and we start talking about what the heck we're looking at, when we start looking at our little Gonio meter, to try to interpret what's going on, that, you've got a pretty good understanding right now. When this thing starts doing all this and it's bouncing around all over the place, now you got a little bit better understanding of what this meter is trying to interpret, so that you don't sit there and go, well, it's just a bunch of nonsense, bro. How could anything, interpret it like that? I mean, give me a break. I mean, I don't understand that. Well, now you've got a little bit better understanding of what it's trying to interpret and how it's trying to display it in a way that's interpretable to you to some point. And a lot of times can show you when you got a good stereo field, or you got major issues, or when something may be a concern that you may want to go ahead and stop and go, right there, I better put a marker, and right there, I'm going to check it out and put a marker there, and right there, I'm going to put a marker. I'm just going to go back and check and make sure, listen, really acute listening and visualization to see if it's a problem. So I hope I made that really clear, and we'll get into the next video of looking at what this thing is exactly trying to show us. And I gave you some other options, some other plugins and things to get into. I do recommend you check them out and maybe purchase them if and when you can. And one of them is even free. And I certainly hope you enjoyed this to try to explain to you that footprint a little bit better, so you have a little bit better understanding of, what it's trying to display to you and why sometimes it might seem a little confusing because of the way it's displaying it. So peace, self-love. I certainly hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next video.